Hi. I just pulled over and parked so I could speak about this. I want to talk about correction and how we need correction in our lives to know what is available to us. In a way, like a parent would be parenting us and guiding us in a way to an orientation for us that would they would have their hands in love for our hearts and tending, and they're not going to want to give candy before bedtime because they know that sugar is going to keep that child awake. That's not only painful for the child, because having a child amped up on sugar that can't sleep is painful for the child that is exhausted and wants to be able to relax, but it can't. And also the parent who's tending to the child that is responsible to the impact to the child and is also impacted by the choice of allowing that. So, in a way, correction is a way that we learn from our past mistakes. Now, one could look at, and I think it's intelligent to question what is a mistake. So you can ask that question. I'm going to leave it a little bit more vague right now and touch upon correction in the sense of when we are withholding ourselves from ourselves, we need a force greater than that within ourselves to even bring awareness, help to bring awareness to ourselves that there is something in us that needs to change so that we can have what it is that we want. When we have what we want, this would be a sense of satiation. Like the child who was tired that finally gets to go to sleep. The correction that I'm pointing to is one that comes from the inside, one that's divinely guided, that when we understand that to follow a certain path that is keeping us from ourselves, we need tools. We need real spiritual tools. And although this is going to sound really obvious, we need honesty. We need transparency. And when I mean need, I mean life or death need. This isn't a like, oh yeah, we need it like we need food. This is like we need it like we need oxygen, right? When we turn our backs on ourselves, when we no longer can face the lies within ourselves that we have said yes to, when we continue to layer upon layer a lie, and we no longer can feel the guilt that would be the correcting resonance for us, vibration, we can get lost, very lost. When we no longer sense our wholeness or know our wholeness, when our lies have become who we are and we continue to feed like layers, like fabric of Maya, the illusion of the totality of ourself, We are in a forgetting spell. Guilt, like in a way the original sin of the belief of separation, is our correcting guiding force. It's a tool or a rudder that we have that can help us to perceive whether we have swayed from truth or not, which is why honesty, sincerity are such important tools in this path, and why guilt is a way, maybe even the greatest way, that darkness or evil, if we want to put labels on it, or Satan, or these ideas of separateness can get through, can infiltrate. When we stop feeling guilt, we're entering into a bigger issue for our soul, because we've started to even believe the lies that we've told. And when we can't see the difference between a lie and the truth, we can believe the lie as truth, and we can believe that truth to be ourselves. How does this apply? For example, I dated this guy for a while, and one of his pitches that he basically, the stories that he would tell of how he got from here and then is now in this market. You know, in a way, we all have that story of how we got from here to here. Because we dated for such a long time, I heard that over and over and over again. And I started to question the story in myself, just in contemplation, and question the reason why this was important to this, because the question actually involved and was revolving around this, but not this part of the story. And what I recognized by continuing to retell this story over and over and over again, he was believing the power of having this story, as if in this case it was like, you know, going on a path to med school, then becoming business person, right? But it was like, I really need to bring in the power of the story of, you know, starting here, even though I didn't complete it, not even a year of it, to give myself credibility and some sort of power to feed the story, and then to get you to buy into my power into this story. Now, I could be extrapolating a lot there, and I certainly am leaving that story vague also. But I feel it illustrates the part that when we tell a story enough, and we don't care that the story is actually leading people to believe something that's not true about us, right? That we aren't correct even the perception that we're giving as well. That we are becoming further from ourselves. There's something in there in each one of those choice points that gives us a chance to actually stop and pause and ask the question, is this true? Am I leading this person astray? Am I safeguarding their heart as my own? Are my needs more than the others? And in this guilt, we have a chance for the correction. We have a chance to lean into the discomfort, where really it just becomes a movement, like moving from left to right. There's no personhood in it. When we make the person out of guilt, this is what's behind separation. So making that personal identity separate from that of the whole, we now feel like there's an I, and the I needs to hide because it feels guilt that it decided to think outside of the one, outside of the Creator. Now there's two. There's the truth of the whole and the one who went rogue and decided to create an identity apart from the whole, right? Who is now living in exile, in a way living in guilt that it chose to make that decision or pretend that it is the whole when it is actually acting from the part of itself. So when we watch guilt navigating in our lives, and that we are not choosing to listen, we can start to see how the guilt can turn into shame, and how shame becomes the identity of the one who doesn't listen, who isn't open to correction, and thus the personality distortion, the identity disorder, the layers of identities of the lies that we tell ourselves that we believe continue to be reinforced. All the way to the idea that's perpetuated in this world, that we're separate. And until you have that direct experience, and you have that knowing in yourself, these of course are just words, and they're just pointers. They're another way of looking at the whole. Yet the truth is in wholeness. And that the correction is needed to restore our kingdom, to restore what was lost because we said yes, and to keep it for ourselves. This is being spoken on many dimensions. Authority, correction that comes from, we could say above, but it also comes from within. And we need correction. And there's such a gratitude that I was feeling that I am loved so much that the correction comes. That love wants to love me so much that it wants me to know where I'm not aligning in truth. And I know that love to love you that much too. Thank you so much for being with me.